in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address a special session of Global Fintech Fest in Mumbai will also launch projects to boost maritime connectivity, including India's largest deep water port. More trouble brewing up for the Indian state of Gujarat, already battered by monsoon fury. Deep depression to turn into cyclonic storm Asna of Gujarat coast by Friday. In a first sit-down interview of her presidential campaign, Kamala Harris' defense policy shifts, says her values have not changed, might appoint a Republican to her cabinet. Israel agrees humanitarian pauses in Gaza to allow polio vaccinations. Drive to be rolled out in 3 separate stages across Gaza beginning Sunday. And Angelina Jolie vows Venice Film Festival as she premieres Maria, in which she plays Maria Callas, one of the greatest sopranos of all time, calls it the most demanding role of her career. All right, we'll start with the top story. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting India's financial capital Mumbai on Friday and will deliver the keynote address at the 5th edition of Global Fintech Fest. DD India's Shyama Mishra reports from Mumbai.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting India's financial capital Mumbai on Friday and will deliver the keynote address at the 5th edition of Global Fintech Fest. It is being jointly organized by the Payments Council of India, the National Payments Corporation of India and the Fintech Convergence Council. PM will also be visiting booths on display at the exhibition hall. There are around 300 plus exhibitors displaying their services and products related to fintech solutions. The 3-day fest, which started on August 28, is one of the largest fintech conferences. This year, the Global Fintech Fest is designed around the theme Blueprint for the Next Decade of Finance, Responsible AI, Inclusive, Resilient. India being one of the fastest growing fintech markets in the world. This conference assembles the leading minds in global fintech to surge ahead, ensuring inclusive and sustainable growth.
And learn a lot about UPI, how it was built, how it was done, what are the objectives, and the success that it's had, particularly in bringing more formalization to the business sector by having lots of small merchants suddenly connected to this larger payment system. So it's been a pleasure, and then I love hearing how fintechs are going to improve, expand, and deliver greater service to everybody.
The focus is responsible AI, inclusivity, and resilience, and it highlights the commitment to building a responsible financial ecosystem that can adapt to and thrive amid global challenges. Global Fintech Fest 2024 is presented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Ministry of External Affairs, Department of Financial Services, Reserve Bank of India, and International Financial Services Centres Authority.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been an advocate of Digital India. In his Mumbai visit, it is expected that the Prime Minister will reiterate the need for stronger DPI, further revolutionize the fintech solutions, and also on his vision of making Mumbai the fintech capital of the world. Shyama Mishra, DD India, Mumbai.
And later in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of India's largest port project at Vadhvan in Palghar district in western India's Maharashtra. More in this report.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will lay the foundation stone of India's largest port project at Vadhvan near Dahanu in Palghar district of Maharashtra. This port will boost economic activity and open new avenues for international trade. The project cost of Rs 76,220 crores includes development of major infrastructure, terminals and other commercial infrastructure. It will be developed in public-private partnership mode as an all-weather, greenfield, deep draft major port.
There are 2-3 aspects which are very unique to this project. The first and most important aspect is that there is a huge demand and supply gap will be in 2030 for the EXIM trade for the containers, and this gap will be fulfilled by this particular project.
The project has the potential to create around 12 lakh jobs. Local communities expect an uptick in employment and other opportunities for them once the work commences.
I feel this project is going to be a mega boost in the financial and infrastructure boost for the progress of the Palghar district, and it is going to be on the maps of major international front, and it is going to improve connectivity to the outside world.
Vadhvan port will be in proximity of hinterland clusters, including the upcoming dedicated freight corridors and Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor. The port can serve as a gateway for the upcoming India-Middle East-Europe corridor and the international North-South transportation corridor.
This Vadhvan port is going to be a very game-changer project in recent times. Obviously, a lot of investments is involved in it, but at the same time, it's going to give job opportunity to millions and lakhs of people. Well, that's the reason this Vadhvan port is going to be one of the important destinations on the international map. Shishila for DD India, Vadhvan, Palghar.
And India's second nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine INS Arighat was commissioned into the Navy on Thursday at Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. The submarine, an upgraded version of INS Arihant, represents a major step forward in India's naval capabilities and strategic nuclear deterrence.
INS Arighat, India's second nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, was commissioned into the Indian Navy on Thursday. The commissioning ceremony took place at the Eastern Naval Command of the Indian Navy at Visakhapatnam. The commissioning was done in the presence of the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. The submarine, which will function under India's Strategic Command, marks an important milestone in India's nuclear submarine program, enhancing India's naval capabilities and strategic nuclear deterrence. Speaking at the commissioning ceremony of the vessel, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said, Arighat will further strengthen India's nuclear triad, enhance nuclear deterrence, establish strategic balance and peace, and play a decisive role in the country's security. INS Arighat is India's second indigenously built nuclear submarine. Arighat is an Arihant-class submarine. Arighat means destroyer of the enemy. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government is working on mission mode to equip soldiers with top-quality weapons and platforms. While the commissioning of INS Arighat, which is upgraded, is a significant step in strengthening India's maritime border, it is also a major milestone in realizing the dream of a self-reliant India in the defence sector. Bureau Report, DD India.
And heavy rains battered parts of Indian state of Gujarat this week, flooding cities, snapping utility links and forcing thousands to leave their homes. The state is facing severe flooding due to ongoing heavy rainfall, prompting the India Met Department indicated that the deep depression over Saurashtra and Kutch is likely to strengthen into cyclonic storm Asna over northeast Arabian Sea, potentially leading to more heavy rainfall in the region. The Indian Army, Air Force and National Disaster Response Teams are carrying out relief and rescue operations in the worst-hit areas. The state is on high alert as the Weather Department has predicted heavy rains to continue over the next few days. Moving on to other stories now, the Israeli military and Hamas leaders have agreed to a series of humanitarian pauses in Gaza to allow for the vaccination of children against polio. The two sides agreed to 3 separate zone 3-day pauses in fighting in Gaza to allow for vaccination of some 640,000 children against polio. The World Health Organization, the first round of vaccination campaign will begin on Sunday.
Well, first of all, a 2-round polio vaccination campaign will actually start on the 1st of September in the Gaza Strip. During each round of the campaign, the Palestinian Ministry of Health, in collaboration with WHO, UNICEF, UNRWA, and partners will provide 2 drops of the novel oral polio vaccine type 2, so-called NOPV2, to more than 640,000 children under 10 years of age.
And the campaign will start in central Gaza with a 3-day pause in fighting, then move to southern Gaza, where there would be another 3-day pause, followed by northern Gaza. The WHO confirmed on August 23rd that at least one baby has been paralyzed by the type 2 polio virus, the first such case in the territory in 25 years.
So we start the 1st of September, and we start in central Gaza for 3 days, followed by South Gaza, and then followed by the north of Gaza. Due to the insecurity, the damage, the road infrastructure, and population displacement, but also based on our experience with this kind of campaigns globally and worldwide, the 3 days might not be enough to achieve adequate vaccination. So we will monitor it throughout the campaign. It has been agreed when needed, the campaign will be extended by 1 day per zone, or even more when necessary.
And Israel's defense minister on Thursday called for the expansion of the stated goals of the conflict in Gaza to include enabling residents to return to communities in northern Israel that have been evacuated due to attacks by Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. At a meeting with top military officials, Gallant said he would bring the proposal to include the goal to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the cabinet.
Our mission on the northern front is clear: to ensure the safe return of northern communities to their homes. In order to achieve this goal, we must expand the goals of the war and include the safe return of Israel's northern residents to their homes on the northern border safely. This move will not diminish our absolute commitment to destroying Hamas and returning the hostages. Once we formulate this proposal, I will raise it before the Prime Minister and the Cabinet.
All right, on to updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. One of Ukraine's F-16 fighter jets crashed while repelling a major Russian attack on Monday. Kiev's military said the first such loss reported since the long-awaited arrival of the US-made planes this month. A top Ukrainian pilot was also killed in the crash. According to sources, the crash is being investigated and international experts will be invited to participate in the probe. Ukrainian Air Force used the F-16 to destroy missiles and drones launched by Russia on Monday. This was the first time any Ukrainian official confirmed the jets were being used in combat. Kiev waited a long time to get hold of the F-16s, and Zelensky has been asking its Western allies for the fighter jets since the start of the full-scale conflict. Now, Pentagon has said that the Department of Defense has no knowledge of Ukraine seeking assistance after the crash of F-16, while spokesperson Sabrina Singh did not reveal how many American F-16s are currently in Ukraine, but expressed pride that planes are defending their skies and their country.
I'm not aware of any assistance or request for assistance from the Ukrainian side to us about this particular incident. We have been, as you know, training pilots here in the United States. I will say that, broadly speaking, combat aviation is incredibly complex, and we've been very proud to train some of the pilots here in the United States, and not just here, but our partners and allies through the UDCG are also training Ukrainian pilots on F-16s.
All right, we'll step into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan visits Beijing. And the judge dismisses lawsuit against Elon Musk and Tesla. And in a narrow escape, India's archer Sheetal Devi missed the world record in women's individual compound ranking round at Paris Paralympics.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. As the presidential campaign in USA is intensifying, the two rivals are harping on new issues to get voters tilt in their favor. The former US president and Republican candidate Donald Trump on Wednesday in his Michigan rally promised free IVF treatment that might help single mothers and also those couples who are incapable to have babies.
Today in a major statement that under the Trump administration, your government will pay for, or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for, all costs associated with IVF treatment, fertilization for women, IVF treatment. Because we want more babies, to put it very nicely.
And Democratic candidate U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris too promised big in her door-to-door campaign in Georgia. She announced to provide tax credit for small business startups and said that the formalities will be announced next week.
So what I'm going to be rolling out next week is basically a tax credit for startups, for small businesses. We're starting out. Yes. Half of America's working population either owns, runs, or works in a small business.
And in Georgia, Harris also held a rally where supporters demanded peace in Gaza. She assured her supporters that a deal will be finalized soon on ceasefire in Gaza-Israel war and release of the hostages.
Let me just say something. Hold up for a second. Hold up for a second. Let me just say something. Let me just say something. We are fighting for a democracy. Everyone has a right and should have their voices heard. I am speaking now, but on the subject, I will say this. The president and I are working around the clock. We've got to get a hostage deal done and get a ceasefire done now.
All right, let's go across to Washington, D.C. DD India's Benji Hire is joining us live from there. Benji, both the candidates have been holding rallies. I mean, if you talk about Kamala Harris and also Donald Trump, but let's talk about the CNN interview. Tell us, what were the major points, highlights of the interview? Kamala Harris hitting back at Trump in first major interview?
Yeah, I mean, this was a moment for her to set her position to the American people, her first sit-down on the record conversation since she took the nomination following President Joe Biden's decision to stand down. And she largely used this opportunity, it's still ongoing, to defend her record and her plans for if she wins the White House. She was pressed on issues, as you might predict, like the economy, like immigration, which was a real sticking point for her during a previous interview years ago, where she gave an answer which gave the perception to the American people that she wasn't a very strong interviewee. Excuse me. Forgive me. She was then also pressed on an issue which is mainly domestic in scope, but still speaks to America's place on the world in terms of energy and climate change. The topic of fracking, the natural gas practice of obtaining fossil fuel that is so essential towards some of the key states that she'd need to win, like Pennsylvania. Now, this was important because years ago, she said she's committed to putting an end to fracking once and for all. Now she says that she wouldn't ban it, and that has been an attack line from Donald Trump of late, calling her a, quote, chameleon for what he sees as her shifting policy positions. In this interview, she says that her values have not changed in regard to fracking, nor immigration, where she said she will continue to enforce laws at the southern border. Some interesting points also to take away from this interview. She says that she would appoint, or happily appoint, a Republican to her own cabinet, presumably not one supportive of Donald Trump. She, in relation to Donald Trump's racially motivated attacks on her, called his remarks the same old tired playbook. She was asked about foreign policy. She says Israel has a right to defend itself, but how it does so matters. Too many lives, she says, have been lost in Gaza in the war since, and that she endorses a ceasefire deal. And most recently, she shared her views on the private moment in which Joe Biden announced to her that he would be removing himself from the race, that he'd be endorsing his vice president. And she drew a contrast between what she views as Biden's character, his selflessness, his patriotism in taking that decision for the benefit of the country, in relation to what she sees as Donald Trump's disposition. She claims that history will view Biden's administration as transformative, but now, she says, is a chance to pave a new way forward.
Benji, also, I mean, I know it's still going on, but did she also talk about what major challenges is she going to face if she rises to the top job?
Look, I think number one is the economy, and that's how the interview opened. She was asked what she would do on day one of taking office in the White House. Her answer was broad in scope. I mean, a number of her sort of policy positions, and this has been a criticism of the vice president, have been quite broad. She says that she would just implement the opportunity economy, as she calls it, ultimately making sure that the economy works for middle and working class Americans. Now, the question could, of course, be posed to Kamala Harris, well, why wasn't that work done under this previous administration, under Biden's White House, under which she served? Well, in response to that, she says that, first of all, the White House under Joe Biden had to fix the economic mess out of the pandemic, which she blames partly on Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump. And she points to her record and says, well, look, we've managed to get inflation down. We've managed to bring in a number of policies to help the American people, and that she would continue that in tow if she were to win in November.
She must have spoken about the Medicare also. But yes, thank you for the time being, Benji. But yes, we'll keep coming back to you. And US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan discussed a wide range of international issues with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday, including cross-strait relations, Russia, trade and concern over fentanyl. There are now plans in the works for a direct call between Xi and US President Joe Biden, as Caroline Malone reports.
Well, this was an important meeting between the US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and the Chinese President Xi Jinping that went on for many hours over Thursday on his final day of a 3-day trip to Beijing. Now, this potentially paves the way for a phone call between the US President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping that could happen in the short term, in a matter of weeks. And in fact, some suggestion now that the two, Xi and Biden, might even have a meeting face-to-face on the sidelines of one of the international events they both attend, potentially APEC or G20, that happens later this year. Both sides speaking this week about the importance of stabilizing relations and wanting to move forward and keep communications open. Sullivan had a number of meetings in Beijing this week. In those meetings, he was able to discuss a range of issues, everything from cross-strait relations, that includes the South China Sea and Taiwan-Chinese relations, to China's continued support for Russia and the US concern over that, mutual concern over the Middle East, of course, wanting the US in particular wanting to get to a ceasefire between Gaza and Israel, the US concern over fentanyl and how some precursors come from China and are then produced into the drug fentanyl in Mexico and end up in the US. That was something that was on the agenda, as well as artificial intelligence. And also military-to-military communication. Sullivan had a very important meeting with a top military advisor to Xi earlier in the week. That was an opportunity to solidify plans for a call between regional commanders of the different militaries that could happen again in the short term. That, again, is a push to try and stabilize relations between these two superpowers and, more than anything, really keep communications open so that they avoid any unintentional escalation. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
And Elon Musk and his company Tesla have won the dismissal of a federal lawsuit accusing them of defrauding investors by inflating the value of the cryptocurrency Dogecoin, resulting in billions of dollars in losses. The ruling by U.S. District Judge in Manhattan found in favor of Musk and Tesla. The lawsuit alleged that Musk used Twitter posts and other public stunts to manipulate Dogecoin's value, profiting from trades conducted through several wallets he or Tesla controlled. An American actress, Angelina Jolie, wowed the Venice Film Festival on Thursday, walking the red carpet for the world premiere of Maria. Angelina Jolie, in her latest biographical psychological drama film, plays the role of an opera singer, Maria Callas, who was one of the greatest sopranos of all time. Directed by Pablo Larraín, Jolie calls it the most demanding role of her career. And India's para-archer Sheetal Devi narrowly missed the world record in women's individual compound ranking round at Paris Paralympics. Sheetal Devi, while participating in the ranking round, shot an incredible 703 out of 720, but was overtaken by her opponent in the final shot of the qualification round. Sheetal Devi finished second in archery individual ranking round. The score 703 is a personal best for the double Asian Games gold medalist. She will next feature in the round of 16 on Saturday. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile application. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.